Now we turn to today's Heart and Soul Connections with Nancy DeBoer from She Leads Michigan. Nancy, we've spent a lot of time in today's show talking about technology and the power of building virtual connections. It's all important, but the value of personal relationships can tend to be diminished in the virtual world, don't you think?
Absolutely. And so many of our senior population has been isolated and have kind of faced a depth of loneliness they may have never had before.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say that they've perhaps been the most impacted, most widely impacted community throughout this entire pandemic. Many seniors have not even had any control over their isolation because of different guidelines put into place. So just imagine a horse walking the halls of a local senior center. That's right. She Leads Michigan honoree Annie Schiller of Miracle Meadows Ranch in Adrian, Michigan, has found a really incredible way to bridge that gap with her dogs and horses. She joins us now to share her story. Hi, Annie.
Hi, Julie. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Annie, I spent years serving on the board of directors for the Alzheimer's Association of Michigan. So this really hits home for me, what you're doing with seniors in particular. What inspired you to first reach out to the senior community?
Well, I think years ago, a church that my mom went to, she would often go to the local memory care facilities and nursing homes. And she asked me one time if I would bring my dog, Amos, just to visit. And it was after that time, almost 30 years ago, I took Amos, I did some fun tricks with him. And when I seen the joy and the laughter that it brought these people, I just found my niche. And it was just like, when you walk in a room and the room just lights up, and I was so amazed what the power of this dog could do.
Yeah. How do you have like a story of someone in particular that these animals have really touched with their quality of life, Annie?
Yes, I do. In fact, it's one of my very favorite stories. And it's just a recent story as well. I have a young dog, and his name is Huckleberry. And when I was first training Huckleberry, he would go to the facility with me. And he was only about 13, 14 weeks at the time. And we went into this facility that I go to often, and he gravitated towards this gentleman and would go and lay at his feet. And I'm working two other of my older therapy dogs. And this little dog that's very attached to me would just leave me and leave the other dogs and just lay at this gentleman's feet. And it took me a few times to kind of go, wow, there's something to this, because every time I went, he would do that. So I started to communicate with this gentleman and just kind of find out his story. And his story was he had no family. He had no family whatsoever. No family, no friends, nobody that came to visit him. And instantly, I knew that God had ordained this. And my little dog, Huckleberry, chose him. So I started calling, his name was Richard. And so I started calling Richard the chosen one. And, that little nickname for him was so impactful to him. The first time I said it, he just started to weep. Nobody had ever told him he was chosen for anything, or the chosen one. And so over the last couple years, we became like family. He would play soccer with Huckleberry after church services. We would go for walks. I got to know him. And this little dog just loved him. And I just believe that it bridged the gap, and it showed the love of God through this little dog. If you would have seen Richard in the beginning when I first met him, he was very depressed. He was he felt very rejected as he had no family or friends. And to see the joy that this little dog brought him was just amazing. And before he passed, they allowed me into the facility because Huckleberry and I were like his family. And to see what this little dog brought to him and showed him the love of God is something that I'll never forget. And I know when Richard died, he knew that he was loved not only by God, but by us as well.
That is so beautiful. So as you have gone through connecting people and animals, and you see this, some kind of connection with the unanswered questions of life and bringing them out of what they've been through. I wonder, we are kind of coming out of this isolation with tech and all of that oppression of tech. And maybe, we have a little bit of that going on. And I wonder, are there any kind of things that you have learned in working with animals and people that could help us in having some success with different techniques? What would you recommend, Annie?
I think one of the biggest things that I've seen, and especially because my heart is really working with dementia and Alzheimer's, that don't ever underestimate the value of just being present with someone. There's more ways to communicate than just verbally. And I think that's a big thing. When I talk to families about that there's more ways to communicate than verbally, it's like this light bulb goes off. And I think just being present with them, being engaged, being with them, I think is just we just don't value that enough.
Certainly something that we've all could use as we come out of this pandemic, just presence and peace of mind with that. Annie, thank you so much for sharing your story today. To hear more from the women of She Leads Michigan, head to our website, WLAJ.com/Expert Connections, and click Heart and Soul Connections. Thank you for joining us for Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton. We'll see you back here next Monday.
Expert Connections is executive produced by mConnexions Marketing Agency in collaboration with Foster Swift Law Firm. Strategic Solutions for Growth. SuperWebPros, Symposia Labs, UnoDeuce Multimedia, and She Leads Michigan. A special thank you to our Style Connections partners, Polka Dots Boutique, The Standard Spa, and Beauty by Wilder. Visit our Style Spotlight online at WLAJ.com/Expert Connections.